The Zyrathian summit chamber gleamed with crystalline architecture that bent starlight into impossible colors. Basit stood among the human delegation, his military uniform feeling heavy under the weight of 1,000 alien gazes. This was humanity's first formal introduction to the galactic conquered, and the pressure to make a good impression was suffocating. Empress Fiza of the Zyrathian Dominion sat upon her throne of living metal, her forearms folded in what their xenolinguist had identified as a posture of cautious interest. Her silver skin reflected the chamber's light like liquid mercury, and her triple-pupilled eyes tracked every movement in the room with predatory precision. The Zyrathians were apex beings, evolved from pack hunters on a world where everything wanted to kill you. They had conquered 12 star systems before humanity had even invented the wheel. Basit had been chosen for this delegation not because he was a diplomat, he wasn't, but because he was a decorated veteran who had proven himself level-headed under pressure. His role was simple: stand there, look professional, and don't embarrass the species. Ambassador Chen would handle the actual talking. The negotiations had been proceeding smoothly for the better part of 3 hours. The Zyrathians seemed genuinely curious about humanity, asking questions about Earth's biodiversity, human cultural adaptations, and their rapid technological advancement. Empress Fiza herself had shown particular interest in human art, a detail that surprised everyone. Apparently the Zyrathians had conquered the stars, but had never developed abstract expressionism. Then everything went wrong. A figure moved in the shadows behind the throne. Basit's combat instincts flared. Something about the movement pattern was wrong, predatory, deliberate. His hand moved to his sidearm before his conscious mind caught up. But weapons were forbidden in the summit chamber. He had nothing but his body. The assassin emerged with shocking speed, a member of the Fraken collective. Humanity had learned, radical separatists who believed the Empress's recent diplomatic overtures toward younger species were a betrayal of Zyrathian supremacy. The blade in the assassin's manipulator appendage was made of phase-shifted matter, designed to pass through armor and energy shields as if they were air. Time seemed to slow. Basit saw the Empress's guard turning, too slow. He saw Ambassador Chen's face contorting in horror. He saw the assassin's trajectory, the blade arcing toward Fiza's exposed back where her ceremonial armor left gaps for her secondary arms. Basit didn't think. 20 years of military training overrode everything else. He launched himself across the platform, covering 15 feet in 3 strides, and threw himself between the blade and the Empress. The phase-shifted blade punched through his shoulder with a sensation like being stabbed by frozen lightning. The pain was transcendent, absolute, unlike anything he had ever experienced. It felt like his entire arm was being unmade at the molecular level. He heard himself scream, heard the chaos erupting around him, felt strong hands, too many hands, catching him as he fell. The last thing he saw before unconsciousness took him was Empress Fiza's face, inches from his own. Her 3 pupils dilated in shock and something else, something that looked almost like fear. Basit woke 3 days later in a medical facility that looked like it belonged in a fever dream. The Zyrathians had spared no expense, using their most advanced medical technology to save him. The phase blade had done catastrophic damage, but their nanite reconstructors had rebuilt his shoulder from scratch, using a combination of his own DNA and biosynthetic materials that were actually superior to the original tissue. Empress Fiza herself was waiting when he regained consciousness. "You are a fool, human Basit," she said, but her voice carried none of the harshness her words implied. "You could have died. Your species would have blamed us. The diplomatic contact would have been destroyed." Basit's throat was dry. "Couldn't let that happen, Your Majesty. Also couldn't let you die." Seemed like the wrong way to start an interstellar friendship. One of her secondary hands reached out and gently touched his reconstructed shoulder. "In Zyrathian culture, a life debt is absolute. You saved the Empress of the Dominion. This is unprecedented. No alien has ever held such a debt." "I didn't do it for a debt," Basit said. "I did it because it was right." Fiza's pupils contracted, then expanded, a Zyrathian expression of profound emotion. "That human Basit is perhaps the most alien thing you could have said. And the most beautiful." The aftermath was explosive. News of Basit's sacrifice spread through the galactic concord like wildfire. The Zyrathian Dominion, known for their martial pride and hierarchical strictness, had a human hero in their midst. Empress Fiza declared that humanity would be granted Class A partner status, bypassing centuries of typical diplomatic progression. Trade agreements were signed, technology exchanges were initiated, human students were offered positions in Zyrathian academies, but more than that, something fundamental had shifted. The other species of the conquered had watched a human, soft, short-lived, weak by galactic standards, throw himself into death's path for an alien he barely knew. They had watched Empress Fiza, the iron ruler of the Dominion, weep openly over his recovery bed. Humanity was no longer just another species seeking admission to the galactic community. They were the species that valued life, all life, above their own survival. They were the species whose instinct was to protect rather than to calculate odds. 3 months later, at the formal ceremony where humanity was welcomed into the Concord, Empress Fiza stood beside Bassett on the grand platform. His shoulder had healed completely, leaving only a faint silver scar that sometimes glowed in certain light, a reminder of the Zyrathian biotech that had saved him. The Zyrathian Dominion owes humanity a debt, Fiza announced to the assembled representatives of 50 species. But more than that, we owe them our respect. They have shown us that true strength is not measured in weapons or territory, but in the courage to stand for others. Today we welcome humanity not as subjects, not as clients, but as equals, and we do so with honor. Bassett stood at attention, trying not to think about how surreal his life had become. 6 months ago, he'd been a military advisor preparing for retirement. Now he was standing at the center of galactic politics, with an alien empress who had become something between a friend and a sister. As the ceremony concluded and the representatives dispersed, Fiza turned to him with what he had learned was a Zyrathian smile, a slight tilt of the head and a brightening of the skin tone. "You know," she said quietly, "I still think you're a fool." Bassett grinned. "Yeah, but I'm humanity's fool. We specialize in doing the impossible and surviving things we shouldn't." "Indeed," Fiza said, her voice warm. "And that, Bassett of Earth, is exactly why the galaxy needs you." As they walked together from the platform, human and alien side by side, Bassett couldn't help but think that maybe foolishness, the humankind, anyway, was exactly what the universe had been missing.